You are so loved here. Welcome to the Unconditional Journey podcast, where we will be exploring different ways to awaken to our life's purpose through a journey to self-love. Awakening the divine inside of us all along the way. We will explore different spiritual modalities, practices, and techniques to find deeper understanding. Some that we have tried and new ones that we want to learn. We'll be sharing our own experiences with you and having special guests on to learn new ways to heal on our journey for the mind, body, and spirit. Come along with us as we awaken the spirit and purpose inside. The Unconditional Journey, just a road to finding your self-love and all the different things that we can do to kind of dive deep into who we are and how to find our authentic self in the way.
Love it. So, would you like to start by sharing a little bit about your history and what brought you to this day?
Wow. Yeah. Way back. Let's see. Grew up in church and Christianity, and my mom and I went to church a lot. Our family was religious. My dad really didn't go, so as a Libra, it was really nice to see both sides to that. And
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed community and the music and the friends that I had there. Then as I got older, I just started questioning more of it. Like, why is there separation? Why are certain people not going to heaven and other people are, like, from different churches? And I just never really got into that. Like, why are my friends at school so different? Because they were born into a family that took them to a different church.
Yeah.
I never understood why they weren't good enough or why I was better. And like, if I would have been born into a different religious family, then I wouldn't be able to go to heaven. And it just never made sense to me. And so I just questioned that a lot. And
how old were you when you started questioning?
Like a teenager for sure, you know. And I went to like church with a lot of my friends all the time.
Yeah.
The Baptist church, the Catholic, went to the Lutheran church. Like, I went to every vacation Bible school as a kid in town because it was like my babysitter in the summer. You know, my parents would be like, "Okay, great." I love the crafting. I love, the snacks and all the nice stories of how Jesus loves you. Like.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get behind that. And as I grew older, I just had a lot of questions, like, what was there before everything was started? And I would ask so many questions. One of my youth pastors was like, don't ask. I was like, what? Like, why is my middle name? Like, I love asking questions.
Here's your warning sign.
I'm just like, I have to know. Like, does that make sense? And I need it to make sense. And then, so I grew up and I was really involved in the youth group when I was junior and senior. I had a lot of great friends there, core friends, and my parents separated, and I just kind of like rallied with them, my friends at my church, because they were just my comfort zone. Yeah. They comforted me through the whole thing. And
source of light.
Right? Yeah, it was great. And we just like hang out all the time and wasn't getting into trouble. I could have went the other way, into drugs and alcohol, but I wasn't into that because I was into sports. So, yeah. And got pregnant right out of high school. And that was weird. And went back to my church. My mom was like, hey, let's go to church. I was home 5 months pregnant for my grandpa's funeral. And she's like, oh, let's just go over to the church. And I was like, I don't want to go to the church 5 months pregnant. And then she talked me into it, and I went, and then I just felt like all this shame when I walked in, and I just kind of turned my back on church. And then, later I was like in college, I studied Catholicism. I went to a Catholic church for a while, and they're like, well, you're not actually Catholic, and you're not taking the Eucharist, so you should either become Catholic or stop coming. And I was like, okay. I left. That's a lot. But yeah, I took the history of Catholicism in college, and just went to so many different churches. And then in one of my college courses, I took a sociology class, and I learned about different religions like Hinduism and Buddhism, and I think it's Hinduism that has the ladder to nirvana.
Yeah.
I think, and it's just like, it was explained to me that, each life is a rung, and you can go up in that life, and when you die and come back, you can go up another rung, and if you don't have the greatest life, you might stay at that rung again and try again, or go down and be on the lower rung. And like, I just thought that was really cool, and like working your way up to nirvana. And at some point, I think I started listening to Esther Hicks and Abraham.
Yeah.
And then I think that was like in my late 20s, early 30s. And
like I just found them 5 years
ago. Right? I think they are the ones that got me to the point where I was like, I don't fear death anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a major turning point for me. I was kind of living my dark night of the soul at that time. Like after my parents split up and then getting pregnant early, I just kind of took off and went on this like wild 20s and went to college and finished track and colleges, and ended up back in Portland and finished at Portland State, my BS. And then I ended up going to massage school in 2005. And I had a job, like I was working in a genetics lab of at OHSU in glaucoma research, which was interesting and neat, and realized like, I don't like research. It's not for me. I'm not very good at math and science. Like the math was just like, no, not for me. And then I went and got a job with the city of Hillsborough doing landscaping, and then I went into massage school. And that's when, like, coming from this Western mentality of medical care and thought process, and going into this Eastern philosophy of like, you can heal your own body, I was like, well, that's interesting. And then like a month after massage school, I got in a car accident, and like I was out of work and I couldn't lift anything. Like I went from being a shot putter and hammer thrower, like very strong, to like not being able to carry my groceries, and like ask people to help me do things. And I wasn't used to saying like, hey, can you help me do this? Can't lift this.
Greatest life lesson ever.
Yeah, it was. I didn't get it at the time, but yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I realized later, as I was getting into massage further down the road, that I was able to experience the pain and like also understanding my muscles at that time. That I was learning how to unravel the pain and suffering from a car accident with massage, and understanding like I could feel the muscles that were hurting in me, and like knowing them from school. I had taken anatomy and physiology like so much in my career, but by the time I got to massage school, like I really knew them. And I was able to feel that pain and understand what muscles were hurting. And then I was able to like, kind of fix them with other massage therapists and just over time, different stuff to help let that go. And then when I got in massage, when I finally got my license and started doing that work, I could understand people that were injured. And like I loved working with motor vehicle accidents because I had experienced that myself, and then I could help them experience that. And I got into like stuff that holds emotionally in your body from traumas like that. Just learning a little bit about my own experience and then helping them release it just a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I want to get more into somatic work, but I'm not at it. The massage, and then when I was in college, I did athletic training as my minor. So when I started working in massage, I kind of got burnt out pretty quickly and just doing like full body relaxation and like dig as hard as you can, deep tissue work. And then one day, this guy came in and he had just had a knee replacement, and I had done like ACL recovery in the training room and like rehab and all of that. So I was like, this is amazing. I can't wait to work on this. Now I get to do massage and rehab. Like, this whole thing light was going off in my head, and I was like, this is awesome. And he's like, well, someone came in last week and they ran out of the room saying they were scared because I was so close to up. And I was like, no, let's go. I'm ready for this.
This is the time.
Yeah. And so like we rehabbed him for like 6 months. I was just working at one of those little clinics where they would just have a membership and come in, and he and I worked together, and that's when it clicked to me. It's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this like treatment work and getting people out of pain and getting them moving. And so that's kind of my journey with that. And then, yeah, that was just like kind of a 2020 hindsight for my spiritual growth, as well as actually getting more into my purpose. When I finally got into massage, I was like, oh, this is more of my purpose. I'm really good at this. And it just comes easily. And then more and more stuff, and got into a little bit of Reiki in the beginning of massage, but then it took me years to get back to it. And in 2020, I was just kind of really bogged down with all that stuff, and I was like stressing out. And I have these like intermittent messages that would come through that I didn't really like pay attention to. And then at some point it was like, I would get the shaman word. And I'd be like, oh yeah, yeah. Like over my lifetime, even just occasionally it would be like shaman, or I'd see something about a shaman and I'd be like, oh, this is really cool. I need to look into this a little bit more. And I'd do a little research, and then I'd like put it off and whatever. So with all the anxiety of 2020, and I just was on edge, and I was like, okay, we had to close down our massage practice. And I had this time, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to check this out. And I wanted someone who was like queer that could be this type of shaman or whatever. And I've always kind of been into the term two-spirit, which is like,
Never heard that term actually.
Really, I don't want to mess it up, but I'm gonna do my best. It's just it's indigenous for the person that is like both connected to their masculine and their feminine, and so it's also balance. Yeah, and from what I understand, they're like really respected because they are in touch with both. But they are also like medicine people and healers, and respected in the tribe for their knowledge and connection to spirit. But, so I found the spirit at J Mendina, and on their website, I'm not a shaman, and either are you, or something. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And so I contacted Jay, and I was like, I really need to work with someone like you, and I'm finally ready. And I had my first session with Jay, and It kind of blew my mind. And then my ego abruptly came out to the surface. Like, we talked about some stuff that made me really uncomfortable. And yeah, it was like my first session with Jay, and I was just like, yeah, okay. And at this point, I'm in this long-term relationship. I have two businesses. We have a product company and a massage practice. And they mentioning the guides were like, hey, you're really in a codependent relationship. Like, nah. I got all squirrely. I got all squirrely, and I was like, oh, love that right in there, and my ego was just like coming out like easy like. And so like finished the session, and Jay cleared the entities off me for the first time and did the shielding around me for the first time. And afterwards, I just got on my email. I was like, so I just want to apologize for that. Like, I was really uncomfortable and I felt really egoic in that. And hopefully we can just, keep doing this work and things will get better. But I had to apologize because like my ego just took over.
Yeah. I'm sure they have seen that plenty in their practice, right?
Right. So I was working with Jay, and every time I would see Jay, they would do the shielding, and they would just like all this yuck at me, and then I'd feel sparkly afterwards, and yeah. And with Jay, I did a lot of soul retrieval, a lot of inner child work, past life. Like there were a lot of sessions where I was bawling, a lot of sessions where I was angry and didn't want to do the work, and I'd go and then I'd try to do the work. And then eventually Jay was like, you can do the shielding on your own. And I'd be like, okay. And then I would do the shielding like right before my visit, my next session with Jay.
Yeah.
And it would help a lot. And then they would be like, oh, you look clearer today. I was like, okay, good. And then eventually, yeah. So I was just like trying to like be clear before our session. So I'm sure Jay knew that I wasn't doing it. And I would just admit, I'm doing this every day. I just wanted to help you out before you started the session. And then
don't pick up any extra stragglers on your way over.
Right. Yes. And so eventually with like the first year, Jay was doing all the clearing, and then okay, you can start doing this on your own. And then I would be like, once in a while I would do it, definitely right before my sessions with Jay. And then I would just start doing it more and more on my own. And then I would feel better. And then I would get to this point where I was like, I feel terrible. I should probably do shielding. And then I'd be like, nah. And then like 3 days would go by and I'd feel like poop. And then I'd finally just be like, oh, I just should do a shielding. And then I'd feel better. And then like sometimes the shielding starts out where it's like, it's really rough to get through it. And we're going to have Jay on here to do the shielding with us. What we're just talking about. And I would just try to force my way through the shielding. And sometimes you could tell like when there's a lot of entities on you because it's like so hard to get through it. And I'd finally get to the end of it and I'd be like, and then I'd be like, maybe I should just do it again. And then I'd do it a second time. And then it'd be so much easier and so much clearer. And by the end of that second, clear and okay, just started getting to the point where I was like able to keep my shield on and doing it mostly daily, and then keeping myself separate from all that other stuff. I realized that I was an empath, and I was learning more about what that meant. And that was like taking on other people's emotions, taking on people's
Perfect.
Yeah. And then let's see, that takes us to like 2021. 22.
Yeah.
Right in 21 to 22, I was like, hey, Jay, you know any Reiki people? No, I don't have anybody that I know right now. And then like a few months later, like again, the message coming through like, you know, and Jay's talking to my guides the whole time, and I'm trying to listen. And at some point, Jay's like, oh yeah, you've got this guide that's trying to talk to you through music. So I was like, oh. So then I'd be like, okay, DJ, what you got for me today? I'd put on Spotify because I'm like, it's an algorithm. If you want to control the algorithm, who am I to say that you're not controlling the algorithm? Like, what you got for me today? And like, I'd be out in the lab making products, and like, I just hear this message after message after message. Sometimes I would just laugh out loud, and I was just like, okay. So that's how I started listening better to my guides. So then finally it said, Jay, you have a Reiki master that I can go. And they're like, actually, I just found one. I haven't met them yet, but I know some other people that go there. So they introduced me to Jet Coda here in Portland. And I went and took Jet Coda's class. And then there was a bunch of people that also work with Jay in my class with me. So that was really cool. And so we kind of have this little group, you know, we have a group now. And I did the Reiki 1 class, and then like a couple months later I did Reiki 2. And after the first Reiki 1, that was like, I'll give you a free Reiki session. And so I was like, okay, great. So we did the Reiki, she did distance Reiki on me, and that was really cool. And then I went to the second class, and she always offers everybody a free session with her. But I went to her website this time, and I was like, okay. And she had mentioned that she talks to the Arcturians with her. And so I went to the website, and I was like, Arcturians, and I read about that. And I was like, okay, Jet, this time I want a session with the Arcturians. She just channels them. She's like, really? Okay, you don't want any Reiki? And I was like, no, I just want to talk to the Arcturians. I'm like, okay, I love aliens so much, so I want to talk to them and see what they would say. And so they come in, and they're like talking to me about stuff, and this was in 2022, like, and they're like, oh, well, said, I don't have a question, just like tell me what I need to know. And they're like, okay, so you have this band around your heart you put there when you were like 3. And they explained like somebody in my family was like tickling me or something, or on top of me or something, and there was somebody else was in the room, and they were just kind of laughing. So I think it was someone tickling me, but I got like upset and like closed down my heart and put this band around me.
It's one of those things, right?
Yeah. It can go either way, right? And so they said, we're going to take this band off of you. And it's going to be really intense, super vulnerable, and we just wanted you to know that. Okay, cool. And I felt like sparkly. I always feel sparkly after these sessions. You know, it's like everything is super clear and open and
energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then that happened, and I just found out before that a close friend of mine had gotten cancer and was dealing with cancer during COVID. And I moved across town, so I wasn't seeing them very often. And like, her son just texted me one day and was like, Mom's sick and she's about ready to die, and you should come and say goodbye. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know. Like, in the period of 2 years, she just like gone away.
Hard.
It was really rough. I felt a lot of guilt and suffered a lot through that. And so then this happened in April. So then like all of my feelings and emotions were like flooding out, and I had this like intense anxiety I went on anxiety meds for about 6 months, just the very lowest dose, just to like clear my head. And that was the first time I've ever done that. And it felt like this backpack of stuff was just let go. And I felt even freer at that point. And things were getting more and more intense. And I smoked pot back then. And one time, and I'm not exactly sure when this happened, but I had this visit from these angels. And the angels were like, well, here's your purpose. You have to be super vulnerable and you have to share your story with the world. And I was like, I don't think so. And I was trying to figure out, like, I didn't want to put it on the YouTube channel, maybe about massage and like foam rolling and have speakers come in and help share with that healing type space. But I was like totally nervous and scared. And I couldn't do it. And then these angels or spirits come in and they're like, so yeah, this is your purpose. You have to be completely vulnerable with the world and share all of these experiences. How do you feel about that? And I was like, no, please go away. Bye. You have that shit, right? That. And so that goes on and on and on. And then that get through the winter. And then January 1st, 2023. Really. So I called one of my friends from my Reiki circle, and they also do some mediumship. And I was like, "Oh, let's do a tarot reading." Like I've been putting off this tarot reading with this person for a while, and so I was like, "Let's do it." I'm like, "I'm free on January 1st if you have some time. Why not start the year off with a bang?"
Ring in the new year.
So, Eden gives me a reading, and let's back up for a month. Somebody named Chante, she decides to send us some info on this class of mediumship and channeling. And so, with Global Sisterhood. And I'm sitting there like, oh, am I worthy of this? Should I spend this money on myself? Like, this is what I need to do. And I sat there and I was like, $222 was the lowest number, like the lowest fee that you could pay to take the class. And I was like, can I afford this? And should I take this? Am I worthy of this? And I finally said yes. And I feel like a million thank yous for that. Because that yes changed my life. Yeah. And so I'm already signed up for this mediumship class. And I asked Eden, I'm like, hey, are you doing any mediumship? And they're just going to give me a tarot reading. They're like, no, I'm not really doing that much. And then all of a sudden, she's like, I'm getting some grandma energy for you. And I was like, ooh, is it Inez? And they're like, well, they didn't really tell me their name, but they say your name like, Debi? Oh my God, it's Inez. Inez is coming through. Inez is my grandma. And she lived to be 103 years old, and she died in 2017. 2017, she was 103 years old. And she was the strongest woman I've ever known. Just fierce. She lived through so much. That's another story. So anyway, like, grandma comes in and Eden's telling me, like, she's saying that she's so proud of you and she loves you so much. And she's so happy that you're picking up these toys that you used to play with when you were younger. And I was like, what? What does she mean by that? And all I could think of was that he was just saying, like, I'm glad you're doing your mediumship work and talking to spirits. It's like, when I was younger. And so I'm like, oh, wow, so cool. And I also was talking to this other guy at the time who I had just found out his name was John. And I had just started, like, actually being able to hear and listen to John And so John and my grandma were just like there talking. I was like really excited. And I was like super excited and super emotional. Like my grandma was just like, in my family, I was always the one that said I love you, and then some other people started saying it. Like I was the weird one that would like hug people and say I love you.
The weird one.
Yeah, I had emotions. Like I was like, I was the alien. I was like, you guys, like I'm crying because I love you so much. And they're like, Debbie has emotions. Watch out for Debbie's emotions. About a dead cat because she gets sad. I'm like, yeah, because I was loving that cat. And so then the class started, right? Our class from Global Sisterhood. Yeah. And like it's a little cranky still about they were talking like, oh, we're gonna refer to God a lot. And like your mom and I were a little cranky about that. We're just like, why? Why do we need to talk about God? Like, it's I'm spiritual, like I'm into source love and source power, and but then one day Lauren was explaining to us that it was the Christ consciousness that they were talking about, taking care of your community and loving each other, and just spreading love and unconditional love and all of that stuff. And I'd been thinking about writing this book, Unconditional Love, but then it turned into this podcast. But yeah, so the class just blew me away. The grandma energy that came in. Well, we had 300 plus women from all over the world on our WhatsApp chat, and we were sharing happiness and sharing traumas, sharing love and support. It was the most beautiful and intense thing. And then we had our first session listening to the Isabella and Clara, and then in the Brazilian rainforest, they spoke Portuguese to us, and we listened through the translator. And then we had the second class, and right before the second class, I was like, oh, I haven't read Isabella's prayers yet. So I was like, trying to be a good student and get all my stuff done, like the next class. Just like a new thing for me. Being on top of things, student. So I think she had like 11 prayers or something like that. And I was just like, I'm going to read through them really fast. And some of them were about Archangel Michael and the other archangels and Mother Mary, other guides, and just kept reading. And I was like, and then all of a sudden, I felt this intense sobbing coming on. And I was just like, I think that was my moment of surrender. And I just broke down and crying, and I fell on the floor. I was in front of my altar, and I fell on the floor in the fetal position, and I was just sobbing, like sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and just purging and releasing. And then all of a sudden, like, I realized I'm in my grandma's lap. My head is in my grandma's lap, and John's standing above her. And they're just like, she's petting my head, and I'm just like sobbing, and she's like, it's okay, we got you. You're so loved. You're just unconditionally loved. And like, we love you so much. And it's just love. I was just showered with love. And I was like, like my grandma would say, I love you. There was always this like wall between us. And now I'm just getting like this beautiful embrace, nurturing. And
profound the difference between soul to soul version of love versus
there's always that thing there.
I've always said that I end up bonding more with my family members that have passed afterwards than when we were in person. There was that wall.
Yeah.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, it's great. I love it. Gives me time to think. Yeah, so that was a moment for me, and in the second class, I think it was that, or maybe right then, my timing gets a little fuzzy. I have this moment where the spirits that came to me previously were like, "Hey, back for your purpose." Or like, "Your purpose is to be vulnerable and share it with the world. How are you feeling about that now? Are you ready?" And I was like, "Okay, sure, let's go." And so, like, I had done the surrendering, and I said yes. And so they basically like started swirling all the pain and the suffering and the darkness and the trauma and all stuff been in there and swirl it all around. And I was like, this does not feel good at all. Like, I can't deal with what's going on. This sucks. And then all of a sudden it just went. And I was like, oh, what is this? This is awesome. I was like, oh, I don't care what people think of me anymore. Oh, wow, that's weird. And I was like, I don't have to be a people pleaser anymore. Ooh, that feels good. Like, it felt great. All of a sudden, it's like, I knew what my purpose was. And they, like, lined it all out for me. And then I was like, okay, here we go. We're going to start this podcast, you know? And I'm going to be vulnerable and share with the world.
I dig it. Bring it on.
Right. Here we go.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. How about you? What's your...
My story, not as detailed.
Sorry. That was the condensed version.
Condensed, yeah. I grew up in a family with 3 brothers, a family as well, and I found myself to be the outsider and the watcher of that. And I kind of went through life very much checked out. And not like I didn't think it was a bad way to exist. It was just um, I watched other people do the actions, and I got to feel into the energy and like the. I didn't understand energy at that point, but I basically feel the energies in them and how they would interact with people. And that became my fascination, is watching authentic versions of people show up versus what fears cause them to retreat, and just like watching all these different human emotions that stresses, that wounds. It's human suffering really begin. And so really like I lived my life as an empath and a people pleaser and all of that, being 100% unaware and not self-aware. And that eventually led to the point where I was 18 and out of the home. I didn't have any identity. There's nothing, no foundation. I looked for other people to go ahead and fill that for me. And it's still very much a journey. Like I wouldn't say that I know my foundation, but yeah, it ended up causing a lot of trouble in my life. I ended up not focusing on what I could build on. It just became a drinking, a lot of smoking, checking out, and whatever you wanted Chante to do, she would do. Um, the word no was not in my vocabulary, and the sensation of no in my throat was hard not. Like it could not be passed. All I could do was just be a person. And that ultimately led me into multiple relationships that were long and satisfy me in the slightest. It sounds it's kind of messed up, I guess. You're connecting with somebody, but then you're not fully connected even to yourself. So there's nothing really for them to connect with. You're
right.
just,
Yeah.
you're just letting them play out their life story on you as you on screen. And that that ended up creating even more suffering for me. And finally, it got to the point, like, definitely struggling with drinking, struggling with smoking weed, everything. Like my body did not know how that did not exist for me. And 18, and my anxiety had been finally boiling over to the point where, like, even when I ate, it wouldn't go in. It wouldn't nourish me. I just felt like I was withering away. And I was living in San Francisco at the time, which was by far the most intense, energetic place I've ever been in. Like, there's so many beautiful things and so many beautiful, beautiful experiences there. But the amount of like suffering that just like washed around the streets, it was more than I could really bear. And I didn't quite understand the level of empath I was. I'm also described as visual empath as well. So if I walk into a home where somebody has going through stuff and they have no it, I pick that up. I'm the Swiffer, energy Swiffer. Bring it on with me. And just felt like I was really, really struggling. So finally started getting ready to just pull the plug, everything. So I broke up with my boyfriend at the time, took my job that was pretty big deal for me, and moved to Vancouver, Washington. Because my mom was there, so that went for rent. I didn't have to know what I was doing.
Right.
And and that was the most appealing thing that could have happened for me. Just no concrete trees. Less. And so I went in there to go ahead and start um, doing a yoga teacher training program in Yoga Center, which is no longer, unfortunately.
Oh no.
Thank you, COVID. But Melanie was my teacher, and she's good, right? And had a lot of online stuff. Yeah, so it ended up being this time where I got to really unplug completely, and I started learning about Reiki and studying yoga, and I had cut out substance from my life, um, substance abuse, I should say, and that ultimately just kind of cleared things open, so I was able to really listen to spirit and feel guided, because when it feels like you strip away any and all of your comforts, and you get to watch what the universe gives you, turns into this aha moment where a lot of the things that you thought you needed aren't at all not, not a reality. And yeah, so being able to meditate and channel into my body and feel my power and all of these things really transformative. It was the first time I've even thought about creating community even. And all of these things, all of these blessings were showing up. And I consider myself someone who likes to do the work. I just haven't seen it in this way. So, for example, one of the first things that I played around with was breath work. And my friend Aaron Overstreet, he does a fantastic, wonderful work. But long and You're just doing your breath. You're hoping for a cycle. And I had never experienced a cycle. And so we go in there and I start, and within 2 minutes, I'm experiencing tetany, which is when your hands and your the shutdown. I felt like it was a lobster crawl. Turned into a little T-Rex and like couldn't really get it to go, and it was incredibly painful. Like the amount of sweat pouring off of my body as I was doing this was ridiculous.
Wow.
and
Your body was fighting it, huh?
it was fighting it hard, and it was actually the first time that I've ever had a inner child moment where I could tell she was there. I couldn't hear her, I couldn't see her, I could just feel her, and she felt angry.
Mm.
And it was like, want to talk about it? What's going on?
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, so it ended up being 3 hours.
Wow.
It was supposed to be an hour. And this was also my first experience of community because nobody left. Everybody stayed, and they ended up creating a ring around me and giving me Reiki, and
Whoa.
a woman had gifted me a giant piece of smoky quartz as she was moving out to go to the bathroom. I'm just like, it was incredibly moving just to experience that amount of love in a room as I was, for the first time, embracing into something so important as a child. And I didn't even understand that the inner child is basically like, it's the essence of your soul.
Yeah.
And that
cranky
being
still.
ignored for so long, yeah.
Mm.
And so finally, I even breaking the cycle after 3 hours. I think Karen finally called it.
Mm-hmm.
But it had left me with this understanding of there's something more here. There's more work to be done. It's not learn, do as much as you can.
Mm.
It was actually settle or be with myself. And that till this day is really something that is my journey.
Mm.
So yeah, I went on yoga teaching. That was a whole nother wonderful battle of ego. Didn't feel enough. Didn't feel I could show up for people, and then it would be they have these lengthy classes planned for myself, study them, and then I'd get up and I'd be like, yeah. Then I would drop in, and Source would like come with me, and it was the most beautiful whole experience where I got to feel the energy of the room, I got to connect in with bodies, and I'm like, oh, this is what it's. It took me like years to finally realize that classes were almost. It was more important to focus on that, like focus on a core root of you wanting to bring or offer, rather than I want to make sure I get the shoulders, I want to make sure I get their lower back, and definitely got to get those hips. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was my experience of ego death. You know, the ego never dies. We don't want it to die. We love ego.
Less of you,
but we love you, but you're very difficult sometimes. Yeah, so it kind of turned into all of that. 2020 happened, and that was yet another wild experience of a yoga teacher in 2020 is not going to do well, guys. Oh God, no. I ended up doing better than ever. Wow. Like, got multiple jobs. So I got to be at home yoga 8 times a day. So good for my soul. And yeah, then it kind of came to this opportunity where I had the option to leave the path, which Because I'd been hustling for a few years. I think it was about 20. I took the job that I'm doing now. It was, I went to go see a channeler, Isabel, and she channels your spirit for you. And I was very nervous. Like, I've been supported on this path. I don't know if I should really project it and go into the world. And yeah, there are definitely some parts of me that are like, you should. But it was an experience where that she was being shown a mountain. The mountain had a path carved up it. There was another path went all the way around the mountain, but that one was basically like
sheer cliff.
Sheer cliff across the cliff. And she's like, your yoga path is going to take you that way, or you can go ahead and carve a path that is going to be hard and it's not going to be really what you want. But when you get to the top, these are going to be all of the lessons that you've been trying to learn the last few years, haven't been learning. And you'll be able to see them in a perception clarity that you've never been able to. And then that included that it was that mountain was as high or as low as I make it. And
that's the key, isn't it?
In my experience, let me just tell you, I am an overthinker and a complicator, and boy, I do good.
How big was that mountain?
Well, it's getting, we're still getting there. And I've got to pull in my hypnosis factor of that. There's just been so many like little loves and fascinations that have been included in my little learning journey as I've been going. Shamanism was definitely one of them. Soul retrievals were actually, I think, how I started feel enough life force back, because I had totally obliterated my energy field by all of the using and self-neglect, everything like that. And yeah, I had finally given myself the gift of experiencing 5 sessions with the woman that was in my community, Mary Lou Rodriguez. She is can't weird thing. They can't say therapist, it's a practitioner of sorts. Yeah, that was a big gift that I gave myself there, and it ended up being so powerful. I'm a very visual person. Like when I meditate, I see so many images coming at me that it's hard to say that I'm actually meditating.
Yeah,
I'm just like, movie time. Show up today.
Yeah.
But hypnosis ended up being wonderful for me because of how visual my mind is, and we got to work on. Gosh, I don't think she expected me to bring as many things I would like to change about myself to the table as I did. She's like, we're gonna work on just like not 349. Okay. Like, I'll tone it down. Okay. But it ended up making it so I don't know. I felt my body for the first time. I felt my soul, my I wanted to do, what I wanted my purpose to be. Granted, I think I'm still even working on my purpose. I don't believe that we have just one. We have a purpose of the day. We have a people here, the life.
Ooh, I love that.
So many. Yeah. But as long as we show up, that's what we're doing. But yeah, so she gave me a lot of guidance, and then I came to this realization of, oh, this is yoga. They kind of jive together. And 8 principles of yoga versus the principles of hypnosis are oddly similar. Like you incorporate your breath, you incorporate your visualization, you do your meditation, you need you to feel your body in order to include these things. Just so many similarities. So took a course, get it certified in it. It was 2020 at that time. So it was kind of like Zoom. My whole life Zoom. We like to Zoom. Thank you, Zoom.
Yeah, thank you, Zoom.
But it ended up meeting some really cool people, and then was able to start tinkering with how I wanted to incorporate hypnosis and yoga together. And that gift of being able to play with community, like I got to show up at sound healing store and
Fun.
Yeah, I got to do the session there and played it all out, like group intention, the simplicity of the move, everything. And it really, like the energy in the room and everybody received just what they needed. That's exactly what I want. I want to be the hollow little bone. I don't want to pretend I know what I'm doing. I don't. I I'm interested. I love spirit, and I love learning, and I most of all just like being a because it's. I think that's where our magic is when we step outside of our instructor mentality and get into we just witness. I mean, you can see what your experience is when I just leave these right here.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because everybody is going to fill in what they need at that moment. Even if somebody receives nothing, they receive a block, frustration and anger and all of those things that somebody's like, I drove in being up $20. I expected something. It's like you got what you wanted, you got what you needed. You needed to feel that anger, that frustration. That's a weird tangent to get off of.
No, I think that some people don't expect that to be something that they wanted or needed. It shows up. That's interesting.
Because it does. It starts to pull in this. What were you expecting? Like what is it that you were wanting? What did you show up with? What did if you have the level of self introspection, even basic frustration can turn into a spiritual journey. And I love that. And then getting to like talk to people afterwards and see what their experience was. And yeah, there's a lot of people that will feel a little bit of frustration and actually talk to it. I think I see why I needed that. Got it. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So
sometimes we need anger to come up to let other things go.
Absolutely. And for me, like my whole life, anger was not in the Vision Bible. You did not experience anger. You did not do that. So yeah, that's also been part of my journey is those emotions and being
part of the whole.
Being as graceful with yourself as possible when you're experiencing things like anger. Like, how do you welcome something into your body that you've been guarding? And that ultimately kind of like, I don't know. And yeah, anger was my last year.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a fascinating journey that directed me into action for sure. Here I am now with so many different things going on, and pregnant with my first child.
Congratulations, a little baby girl.
Thank you. But it's like that also feels like it's part of it, because it's like, I need that mama bear. I've had to be ready to show up for myself and be an advocate of another human being. And it's interesting to watch the way that the universe guides you.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, now all of a sudden, am I ready? Hell no. Absolutely not. I'm not under any illusions. But I'm doing better.
Yeah.
Better than where I had been. Yeah, I guess in a weird roundabout way, that's my history. I'm still playing and exploring till the day I die.
Yes.
And I don't know. I'm just very grateful to be a part of the podcast and this journey, just to show up for the people who are like,
exactly.
Do what I do.
Yeah.
We have fun.
We're going to learn more about it.
Absolutely.
You know what I did?
By no means, guys, am I a licensed PhD person, but I can definitely give you some cool experiences.
We're licensed in experiencing life.
Absolutely.
Also, I just realized that we never introduced ourselves. So, I'm Debi Mann, and this
I'm Chante Bastain.
Yes. And yeah, that was wonderful.
Thank you. It was a good way to introduce ourselves and way to bring in the show.
Get those first show jitters out of the way.
Absolutely. It's all about fun here.
Right. I have so much to say and so many things to talk about. Hard to streamline. So we'll just talk about a little bit, sprinkle it out there, and then go back and get some more info in there.
The re-loops.
Yeah.
I hope people like looping as much as I do.
Oh, good. Yeah, because got lots to talk about.
So much.
All right, my friend, I guess we'll just end that here and see you next time.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your beautiful spirit, and
you too, my friend. Thanks for being
to
here.
Our audience. We are so happy to have you with us on this journey. We're going to dive in deeper and more those different emotions, play with different things. We hope to create a way of communication. We can talk with everybody and kind of for what it is that you want to talk about. So what are you experiencing?
Right. What modalities or spiritual practices helped you or you want to learn more about too?
It's a learning journey, and we're going to dive in with you.
Right on.
All right.
Thanks for being here. Thanks so much. We ask our listening community to help us reinforce the energy shield of our intention, to reach out wider and brighter. Love energy is important to share. We ask you to bring light, love, and grace into the world. Please help us share this message, whether verbally or energetically.